Every 2 years, the legislature passes what we call a biennial budget. So it's a 2-year plan for the state. And in the odd years, we do what we call a supplemental budget, which takes the budget from the previous year and adds to it or subtracts to it. We can't be right on target every time we do a budget, so the supplemental budget makes fixes, essentially. And this year's supplemental budget was noteworthy because it wasn't just about tweaking budgets of different state agencies. In this year's supplemental budget, we actually had to respond to different court decisions that had come out during the last 10 months, as well as to natural disasters like the wildfires in eastern Washington and the Oso landslide. Just this week, the Senate passed a supplemental budget that had been passed by the House, bipartisan. I think it was almost unanimous in the Senate, if not unanimous. And it covered the funding that we needed for the natural disasters, as well as increased funding for mental health treatment in our state and for foster care in the state, both foster care and mental health. We had cut dramatically during the recession, and the courts told us we had cut too much and needed to start restoring it. So this week we passed budgets that will get us back on track for supporting those two important programs. Over the past few weeks, I've been working, of course, on a number of bills. I've sponsored some myself. I've co-sponsored many. I've helped colleagues get bills through committees that I sit on. One of the interesting and I think very important bills that we're moving through the Senate right now is one that I co-sponsored, and it relates to making sure that the curriculum in our public schools incorporates tribal history, tribal law, and tribal culture. And the reason that's important is that the 29 federated tribes in our state have played obviously an important role in our history and have an important cultural role to play. But we get questions all the time about why are the tribes allowed to sell gasoline? Why do the tribes have casinos? What are the tribal fishing rights? And we need to raise a generation of Washingtonians who understand the legal standing of tribes in our state and understand culturally, historically, economically, and politically why the tribes have rights that are different in many cases than cities and counties in the state. So I'm looking forward. I'm hopeful that that will pass the Senate and will move along to the House, and that we'll have our schools really doing a good job educating kids about that. Another bill that I'm working on is a tricky bill that it comes up every year, and we've had a difficult time passing it. And it's one that seems so obvious, I think, to regular citizens, to people of the state. And that is, right now we have a state law on the books. It's actually in the state constitution that allows low-income seniors, disabled veterans, and people who were retired because of disability to be exempt from local levy taxes that are passed in their district. So whether it's a fire EMT tax or a school district tax, if you're of a certain low-income property owner, you're exempt in a lot of ways from paying those taxes. And the income level has been set at $35,000 a year for years. And it hasn't been indexed to inflation, and it really doesn't take into account the cost of living in some of the higher cost counties. And so I'm working with county assessors from around the state, the business community, and advocates for seniors and disabled veterans to see if we can find a solution to increasing the income amount so that more people qualify. And what has happened is that since it's not indexed to inflation, people's income may grow slowly, but they're still low income, and so they've been exempt from the taxes and then find out that they have to pay these property taxes, and that's a big lift for a lot of people. So we're working on that, and I'll know in the next couple of weeks whether we've been successful in working through the complexities of that issue.